morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 5 and season 4 and episode number 520 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. And as you can tell, a little bit last week and this week, I'm taking advantage of wearing stuff that actually has some green on it while the green screen isn't working. All of a sudden, my sartorial choices became a little more limited because green is my favorite color, actually. So we need red screen or orange screen for those of us who like green.
Well,
I'm your host. The things I think about. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Today, recording date is Monday, November 25th. Looks like it's going to be a nice day out there from what I can see. A little chilly, but then again, I mean, we're coming into December. Should be a little chilly. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
well, so far so good. It's kind of sunny right now here in the nation's capital, and I don't know how long that's going to last for because I just got a warning here that we're getting a freezing rain warning overnight. So it remains to be seen what that's going to be like.
Ooh.
Yeah. But right now it looks nice. So
Okay.
Take that for as long as we can have it.
Taking a look. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look over here. Maybe not over here freezing rain. Well, close to. Yeah, it's gonna feel like -1 with some showers. So we might have the same thing down here. Doesn't say so far it's gonna be freezing, but I mean, we're a little south, but not that far south. So, All right, kids and cubs. Oddly enough, relatively calm news weekend. That might have something to do with the fact that the initial wave of the shock and awe campaign in the United States from the new president-elect is over, in that he did name all the positions that are supposed to be named right up to now, and now it just depends on whether or not they're going to be vetted. But already can't really take a breather, because if you're listening to the news, it seems that then the second wave of shock and awe is coming, and that's a whole slew of executive orders that will be ready to go on day one, including stuff such as if you're in the military, not being able to go out of state for certain medical services, for example. So yeah, we'll see what happens there, but there's reason to be concerned, and there's reason to prepare for every possible eventuality. And when it comes to the unpredictability of this particular person, the fact that he loves to keep people destabilized constantly, doesn't like you to get on any solid footing because he thinks that's an advantage for him. It's going to be bad, but the problem is we don't know what it is he's going to hit and how bad it's going to be until it actually happens, and running around going, oh my God, we're all doomed like this before it happens, or running around and going like, how many virgins do we need to throw into the volcano so he doesn't go for us, when you know that doesn't matter how many virgins you throw in a volcano, that will appease him for all about 30 seconds until he gets distracted about something else, and then I'll get distracted again and then realize that he wants to attack you again, even though you just signed something 30 minutes ago. So, the solid ground underneath your feet is not his thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, part of this, and as you saw that, we saw the collective panicking of all our premiers on the Mexico thing. And it appears that, at least according to the Toronto Sun, so that I saw, afraid of losing U.S.-Canada trade pact, Mexico alters its laws and removes Chinese parts. Now, this appeared in the Toronto Sun, but it's actually an Associated Press story. So AP, you can trust. But, quote, Mexico has been taking a bashing lately for allegedly serving as a conduit for Chinese parts and products into North America, and officials here are afraid a re-elected Donald Trump or a politically struggling Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau could try to leave their country out of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement. Mexico's ruling Morena party is so afraid of losing the trade deal that President Claudia Sheinbaum said Friday the government has gone on a campaign to get companies to replace Chinese parts with locally made ones. Quote, we have made a plan with the aim of substituting these imports that come from China and producing the majority of them in Mexico, either with Mexican companies or primarily North American companies, Sheinbaum said. While Sheinbaum claimed Mexico had been working on that effort since the 2021 global supply chain crisis, when factories around the world were stalled by a lack of parts, and particularly computer chips from Asia, it appears to be an uphill battle. Even the United States has faced big challenges in moving chip production back home despite billions in subsidies and incentives. Mexico gained tens of thousands of jobs when U.S. and foreign automakers moved their plants to Mexico under the Free Trade Pact to take advantage of, there's an ad that popped up on the screen and everything shifted, take advantage of much lower wages. But the idea that Chinese parts or even whole cars could be piggybacking on that arrangement to further hollow out the U.S. auto industry has enraged some people north of the border. So Mexico is scrambling with private companies to get them to move parts production here. Quote, next year, God willing, we are going to start making microchips in Mexico, Mexican Economy Secretary Marcelo Ebrard said on Thursday. Quote, of course, they're not yet the most advanced chips, but we are going to start producing them here. Mexico's nationalistic ruling party, which is normally very resistant to being seen as bending to U.S. demands, is scrambling in other ways too. The ruling party is in the process of eliminating a half dozen independent regulatory and oversight agencies that were established by the former president. That includes the anti-monopoly, transparency, and energy regulatory bodies, together with reforms that will make all judges stand for election in Mexico, and that has sparked concern in the U.S. and Canada. Countries are required under the agreement to have some independent agencies in part to protect foreign investors. For example, they could prevent a government from approving a monopoly for a state-owned company that could force competitors out of the market. So ruling party legislators are actually rewriting the proposed laws to exactly mimic the minimum accepted requirements under the trade accord. Quote, what is being done is to create a reform so that it's almost exactly equal to what exists in the United States, so we can clear that up, Ebrard said. It's all part of a very legalistic defense of trade accords signed in 2018 and approved in 2019. Mexico hopes the rules of the agreement would prevent the US or Canada from simply walking away when the trade pact comes up for review in 2026. Experts agree, saying that totally abandoning the accord is unlikely. Gabriela Siller, Director of Economic Analysis for the financial group Banco Base, notes that if the country is dissatisfied with the trade agreement during the periodic reviews, like in 2026, there is a clause in the pact that says they can ask for a review each year to work around a solution and keep doing that for a decade while the agreement remains in force. Quote, that is, they wouldn't be able to get out until 2036, Siller said. I think they will play hardball with Mexico in the 2026 review. Like any marriage, when the pact no longer works for one party, it may still drag on for years, but it's death by 1,000 cuts. C.J. Mahoney, who served as deputy U.S. trade representative in Trump's first administration, said in a talk for the Texas-based Baker Institute in September that the United States probably wouldn't end the trade agreement, but with growing vocal critics of the pact, it could hold up renewing it for years. Quote, the costs of not renewing immediately are actually quite relatively low, Mahoney said. I think the inclination to just kick the can down the road will be pretty strong. Because many companies won't make big investments in production facilities without certainty, that could be a serious, if not fatal, blow to the pact. How much does Mexico actually buy from China? Mexican officials say they have fewer imports of Chinese parts and products than the United States does. But given the enormous size difference between the two countries' economies, it's a true but weak argument. In July, the U.S. imposed tariffs on steel and aluminum shipped from Mexico that were made elsewhere in an attempt to stop China from avoiding import taxes by routing goods through Mexico. It includes a 25% tariff on steel not melted or poured in Mexico and a 10% tariff on aluminum. Senator Sherrod Brown, an Ohio Democrat, has called for stopping Mexican steel imports, saying, quote, the alarming rise in Chinese steel and aluminum coming into the country through Mexico is unsustainable and a threat to American jobs, as well our economy and national security. In the end, Mexico may be forced to crack down on Chinese imports, but it won't be easy. Quote, reducing the dependence on Chinese imports is not going to be achieved in the short or medium term, said Jose Maria Ramos, a professor of public administration at the Colegio de la Frontera Norte in Tijuana. So, here's the thing. The United States had a concern. Mm-hmm. The government of Canada had the similar concern. They both expressed it. Mm-hmm. Neither of them have said, but maybe it's time to kick Mexico out of the pact. That was a Doug Ford thing. And then Daniel Smith came in and said, me too. And then Rob Canoe said, well, maybe that's something we should consider. And then all the provinces and territories, Doug Ford did that rallying thing, pretending he was the prime minister and got everybody to say, hey, you need to do something about this. And I think Doug Ford must be probably one of the most disappointed politicians in Canada today, because I'm pretty sure, if the rumors are true, that Pierre will not be leading the Conservative Party of Canada into the next election. Like yeah. If the rumors are true, based on a whole bunch of different things, which we will not go into because we cannot corroborate them and we are not journalists. And so far, they could be rumor or hearsay. But
and apparently, it's Doug Ford that'll be taking his place.
That would be the assumption, and it would not be the first time Doug Ford did that, because that's how Doug Ford became Premier of Ontario too. Mm-hmm. Just slither his way on into a party leadership race after the alleged heir apparent gets blown out of the water, facing a government that's been in power for a long time and is considered to be tired. Literally the law of minimal effort and the path of least resistance. He's done it once, he could do it again, and it would certainly explain him trying to brush up his statesmen like bona fides. Or bona fides, as he was getting everyone. And I'm sure he planned to campaign on this for a very long time, except that states do as states do. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're both our big trading partners and you both have an issue with this. Okay, we'll look into that. We'll make some changes. I don't think Doug Ford counted on Mexico saying, yeah, you know what? You guys have a point. We'll make some changes.
Yeah.
There goes the story. Well, you can't do that. I was planning to run on that for the next 4 or 5 months.
That was my, well,
you can't do that.
Oh, Doug.
This is why you want adults in the room. Yeah. This is why you don't want people rushing off and tripping over their dicks, as Jenny Byrne likes to say. Mm-hmm. To carve off more pieces of Canada to just hand over. I guess we have to prepare for literally every eventuality, because the guy pulls things out of his butt randomly and changes day per day. But we also have to do that like a duck. The feet going like this under the water, and above the water, keeping fucking calm and carrying on. Now, I mean, if that is the plan, we definitely know why they would want Doug Ford, because Doug Ford has proven fucking effective at carving off pieces of Ontario and selling them not even necessarily to the highest bidder, just to a bidder.
Well, one that he prefers, basically.
Yeah.
No benefit to us whatsoever.
So I'm sure that the people who saw him do this so effectively with little to no consequence so far, except for a publicly announced RCMP investigation that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, even though it seems that we heard in the news that they are actually moved to the phase where they're actually asking people questions rather than just gathering evidence and stuff. But given that he's done it pretty well and repeated the same, because he's got one play, he's got 75,000 different variations on the play, but he's got one play and he keeps on doing it seemingly successfully with no consequence, and people still want to vote for him. Hey, well, let's bring this guy national and international and give him access to even larger purse strings. So we know why the people who would want him there would want him there.
Well, I mean, you're handing over the bank account to somebody who's going to spend like a drunken sailor on a Saturday night. No offense to sailors who get drunk on a Saturday night. I'm not a sailor, but I've been drunk on a Saturday night. And I know you don't make the best judgment calls when you're in that headspace. And let's face it, Doug will sell us off to whomever offers him the first bag of money. That's it. I mean, look, Mike Harris sold off the 403, 400? Was it 403? What's the highway? 407.
407.
For 99 years. And yeah. That could have been a great tax revenue for us.
And for almost nothing.
Yeah, he sold it for almost nothing, yeah. So and they owed us, they had penalties a few years ago. And what did Doug Ford do? I think they had a $2 billion penalty.
$1 billion.
$1 billion?
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah, $1 billion, thank you. And Doug's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Excuse me? Excuse me? Could you do that for me? I have a couple of outstanding debts that I'm trying to pay down. Could you just wipe them away from me? I mean, mine are like minuscule, like $7,000.
Everybody with an Ontario student loan would like to have a word, Doug.
Yeah, no shit.
Right?
Idiot.
Oh boy. I sent you a clip, Mr. Grizzly, and this clip was actually highlighted by the folks from Midas Touch, which is actually kind of interesting because that's US based. Yes. But now that Matt Gaetz has been dealt with, there's a couple of other people on the list have some issues. And one of them is the proposed Secretary of Defense, who does have a little bit of military experience, but never, ever even commanded a unit. And has, like the guy who appointed him, a history of having people sign non-disclosure agreements after allegations of sexual impropriety. Now, this person is also on the record as saying that he does not particularly believe that women should serve in combat roles.
Yeah.
Well, this weekend in Halifax was the annual International Security Forum. Because, and if you're a watcher of global TV in particular, Global seems to be the network that covers this stuff the most and really focuses on this. And over the course of the weekend, Canada's top military commander, Jenny Carignan, yes, our chief of defense staff, was there and was talking. And I saw a first clip of it somewhere, and I thought, ooh, as soon as I saw it, I thought that I'm going to share with you. I had it, but now that I see this, this confirms it. But my thought was, ooh, that sounds like a message that was directed to a potential soon-to-be Secretary of Defense. I won't say which one. You know what I'm saying? But this particular clip, this way and this framing, really drives it home, and it seems the Americans might have noticed.
Just a little bit, I think so.
After 39 years of career as a combat arms officer and risking my life in many operations across the world, I can't believe that in 2024, we still have to justify the contribution of women to their defense and to their service in their country. and all the women sitting here in uniform, stepping in and deciding to get into harm's way and fight for their country need to be recognized for doing so. So again, and that, folks, is the distraction, not the women themselves. So again, I just wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Another big international happening that's been going on for the past couple of weeks is the COP29 summit. That's the big summit that takes place to try to get people and nations and big business entities to collaborate for things having to do with climate change and to come up with some ways to respond to it and mitigate the effects and all that kind of stuff. It lasted about 2 weeks this year and went into overtime because there was nothing happening with the deal and many complaints from the member states, particularly the smaller nations and the smaller southern nations, particular island nations, that because it was Azerbaijan, that the organizing delegation wasn't particularly inclined to come up with resolutions and stuff that were particularly hard on the oil industry, and a bigger push for those determining where these summits are going to take place to maybe not have them hosted in such nations anymore. It's not the first time that such a claim, such request has been made. So far, it has fallen on deaf ears. Now, the last time, one of the big things here was to negotiate the package that what they call northern countries, but the more developed nations that have contributed more to the situation of climate change today, to put some money in a pot to help the southern nations and the island nations and them get off fossil fuels on their own because they don't have the budgets to do it, and to build whatever mitigation that they require. And about 10 years ago, well, not 10 years ago, but in 2009 is when they came up with their initial agreement, and there they were trying to fund it to the tune of about $100 billion a year. So you would think, okay, it's 10 years later, right? We need 200 billion or maybe 250 billion or something. Well, not exactly. Not exactly. Now, the money, as I mentioned, is intended to help poor nations get off fossil fuels and help them adapt to harsher climate and extreme weather. But the developing nations are saying that they're being forced to accept an insultingly low amount. Panama's Environment Minister, Juan Carlos Monterrey Gomez, made it relatively clear. I'm disappointed. It's definitely below the benchmark we've been fighting for so long. We were demanding $1.3 trillion. Up from 100 billion per year.
That's an increase.
Once again, 1% of global GDP. Right. So if that is the case, if it's always been 1% of global GDP, that means from $100 billion to 1.3 trillion since 2009 is how much global GDP has grown.
Wow.
Okay, for that request to happen. What we got was 300 billion. However, there were some provisions that were included in the last version of the text which made Panama accept it. Developing countries were very angry about how this deal was approved. According to NPR, it happened quickly and early in the morning. The representative from India, Chandi Raina, said her country was not allowed to make a statement before the decision was finalized, but when they were allowed, they passionately asked for the offer to be globally rejected. Now, of course, it looks like the U.S. is going to pull out of this with what's-his-face coming up. And a representative from the islands of the Seychelles made a point that stuck with me. That might be something that is being forgotten by the people that would want to make these moves. Quote, even if you pull out, you will still suffer the impacts of climate change, and it would still affect your population, and eventually your population will be unhappy with the way you are looking at the issue.
Indeed.
Right? It's not if they are going to get mad at you and start making you pay for it. It's just when.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about India, and it's going to be actually nice to talk about India in a positive way for once, considering the tensions between our nations. But in this case, according to the Times of India, they call the COP29 basically an illusion of progress. The highlight of COP29 was the adoption of a new collective quantified goal, NCQG, for climate finance. Developed countries committed to mobilizing $300 billion annually by 2035 as part of a broader $1.3 trillion goal. This replaces the unfulfilled $100 billion target set in 2009. So they never actually reached the $100 billion a year. And now they're pledging to do $300 billion when the ask is $1.3 trillion. Listen, I'd like, I'm an optimist and I like to bring you hope, but it seems that there's still a lot of people that are just not motivated by any sense of urgency and are just not getting it. They're just not understanding the need. However, the figure has been criticized as, quote, too little, too distant, particularly when the climate crisis demands immediate and substantial resources. India, alongside the G77 plus China, had pushed for at least $500 billion annually in public grants. Instead, the adopted target allows for voluntary contributions from developing nations and counts funding from multilateral development banks, a shift that India describes as a deflection of developed countries' historical responsibilities. The rushed adoption of the text in the final hours, despite opposition from developing countries, further eroded trust. As India rightly emphasized, trust is the basis of all action, and the process at Baku only highlighted the growing divide in global climate diplomacy. And again, in the area, right now the reports more are in Pakistan, but if you've been following the news, particularly in Lahore, but we're talking about all in this general region here, the air quality is horrible. And I believe India, for a couple of days, had to shut down some schools because the air quality there was the worst in the world. And this is just over the past couple of weeks, right?
This is common for that area at this time of the year.
So it's like India gets it when it comes to this particular issue, in terms of getting the funding to how much they're doing to actually combat climate change themselves. That's another issue, but on this particular aspect of the issue, they do get it, mostly because they're rather quite affected by it. Beyond the financial commitments, COP29 revealed the deep contradictions at the heart of global climate action. 1, carbon markets over integrity. The completion of Article 6 regulations on carbon trading, allowing higher emission countries to purchase carbon credits from developing nations, raised ethical concerns. While such mechanisms might attract investments, they risk becoming tools for offsetting rather than reducing emissions. Health as a talking point. The establishment of the Baku COP Presidency's Continuity Coalition for Climate and Health was a step forward, but integrating health considerations into climate action is only meaningful if matched with sufficient funding and implementation. 3, fossil fuel dependence. The host country, Azerbaijan, underscored its reliance on fossil fuels, with President Ilham Aliyev controversially referring to oil and gas as a, quote, gift from God. This starkly contradicted the spirit of a conference meant to pivot away from fossil fuels. And 4, geopolitical change. The re-election of Donald Trump cast a long shadow over the negotiations, raising fears of diminished U.S. leadership in climate action and stalling progress on critical issues like adaptation and loss and damage funding. So basically, they are looking at it as a missed opportunity, saying COP29 will be remembered more for its political theatrics than its tangible outcomes. While the climate finance target marks progress on paper, it remains an optical illusion, a semblance of action without addressing the root causes of inaction. The continued neglect of the most vulnerable nations and the lack of trust among parties raise questions about the UNFCCC's ability to drive meaningful change. As we look ahead to COP30 in Brazil, the world must move beyond empty promises and fragmented commitments. Climate change is not an abstract future threat. It is an escalating crisis that demands bold, immediate action. COP29 may have ended, but the fight for a just and sustainable future continues. It seems that there were a whole bunch of frantic maneuvers that led to this, according to the Financial Post here. As talks stagnated, a group of envoys from some of the most vulnerable nations, including island states who see themselves as the first casualties of rising seas and runaway temperatures, abruptly walked out. While pushing climate talks to the brink is nothing new and negotiations frequently continue for a day past the official deadline, the walkout in Azerbaijan raised the prospect of a scenario that had happened just once in 3 decades, the collapse of COP's main negotiating track, with a fraction of the most endangered countries complaining they had been systematically ignored by countries whose wealth owed to burning fossil fuels. It looked like finance talks were about to fall apart. Saturday's impasse marked the nadir of 14 days of talks in Azerbaijan, and it was a moment that flashed warnings about the difficult future for global climate cooperation. The election of Donald Trump, just 1 week before the start of COP29, promised to eventually remove the U.S. from future negotiations after productive years where the country linked arms with top emitter China to forge consensus. A risk of backsliding stalked the summit, with Saudi Arabia leading a rearguard maneuver to sideline an agreement over, quote, transitioning away from fossil fuels that had been hard won at last year's COP28 talk in Dubai. And that was another aspect of this conference that had developing nations upset that there seemed to have been no talk whatsoever about transitioning away from fossil fuels, that even initially such wording was eliminated completely from the drafts of the communiques. Instead of triggering a total breakdown, however, the frustrated envoys came back to the table with new resolve to secure even a disappointing final agreement. In the end, a palpable sense of anxiety over the dangers of leaving COP29 without a new financial commitment carried the day. At next year's talks in Brussels, negotiators concluded further headwinds would mean only a fraction of the financing would likely be offered up to poor countries. A final push saw a smaller group of negotiators lock themselves in a tiny second-floor room, away from the cameras, to dig in on essentials. The gambit worked. Envoys emerged 2.5 hours later with a framework for a deal. Grinning diplomats packed into a crowded elevator as a handful of lawyers stayed back to turn the potential compromise into official text. Poor countries had won a few key concessions from their wealthy counterparts, including a promise of at least $300 billion in yearly support for combating climate change. That marks a tripling of an expiring annual pledge to deliver $100 billion, and an additional $50 billion more per year than had been on the table the previous day. But it was far from what developing countries wanted, mere billions instead of the more than $1 trillion per year that had been sought to build emission-free energy and increase resilience to heat, drought, wildfires, and violent storms. The world needs to rapidly cut planet-warming pollution to have any hope of staying near the critical 1.5 degree Celsius threshold set out in the Paris Agreement, and there's no dispute that the money summoned in Baku won't be sufficient. Even before the ink was dry on the COP29 agreement, there was skepticism about what was actually achieved. India's negotiator, Chandy Reina, condemned the $300 billion deal as a, quote, optical illusion. Part of the objection stems from how the agreement tallies various sums towards that headline figure. Going forward, contributions to multilateral lenders such as the World Bank from India, China, and other developing countries will count, potentially pairing what's expected from rich nations. In the International Finance Corporation, for example, India and the UK are roughly equal shareholders. It's also still unclear just what counts as climate finance, a problem even under the prior agreement to provide $100 billion annually. Most money goes to developing countries in the form of loans rather than grants, rendering it unattractive or downright unusable for indebted nations. And the new $300 billion per year total with a 10-year timeline isn't adjusted for inflation. That means $100 billion put forward under the prior agreement in 2020 will have the same buying power as $155 billion in 2035, assuming a modest 3% rate of annual inflation. With the risk of inflation running hotter, $300 billion in 2035 might not even double the amount of climate finance received by developing countries today. Jeez. The need is so great.
Yeah.
And it's not, they're just not getting it. But hey, 300 billion is better than 100 billion, even though it's never been reached. But the question then becomes, is 300 billion just the, okay, yeah thing that we agreed to get this thing off the media?
Probably.
Spotlight for the next while, but never have any intention of fulfilling.
Never follow through. Yeah, no, that wouldn't surprise me in the least. Wouldn't surprise me in the least. Just throw us a bone every now and then to keep us thinking that you're trying to do something. Meanwhile, they'll continue to drill, baby, drill.
It's pretty sad, man.
Yeah. In other news, I've got something for you that just came
Yes,
across my feed. This is from, of all places, the Daily Mail.
Okay.
But Trump plans to kick transgender troops out of the military, with 15,000 service members to be medically discharged on his first day in office, report claims. The controversial order would cause as many as 15,000 active service members to be medically discharged, deeming them unfit to serve, according to the Times. Huh.
Yep. Part of
Check
the
it
shock and awe first day, all the executive orders.
Yep. He seeks to issue the executive action on January 20th, 2025, or day one of his term, the Times said, preventing any transgender people from enlisting in the military as all branches continue to struggle with recruitment. The 78-year-old former president has nominated former Fox News host Pete Hegseth to lead the Department of Defense and has pledged to purge all government agencies of, in quotes, woke policies. In a podcast interview recently, Hegseth called the inclusion of transgender people in the service pushing boundaries. He suggested that you can't integrate trans people in as easily as people of different races were integrated because being transgender in the military causes complications and differences. He also said that transgender people were not deployable because they are reliant on chemicals. What the fuck does that mean?
God. Seriously?
Yeah. The Times of London. It's a Daily Mail report quoting the Times of London. So the White House said back then, retaining troops with a history or diagnosis of gender dysphoria, those who may require substantial medical treatment, prevents considerable risk to military effectiveness and lethality. Do we know for a fact that all those 15,000 service members are frontline in the battle? Because, there's a whole bunch of people that work in support. When you deploy your army to a theater of war, they're not all just frontline door-kicking soldiers. You have supply, you have cooks, you have admin people, you have construction, you have telecom guys. Like, they're saying that every transgendered person in the military is a frontline artillery or a stormtrooper or a... This is ridiculous. Just spread the hate.
Yeah. Mr. Grizzly, I just sent you an image that when you have the time to put up, you might not want to put it up through your email. You might want to clip it up and put it up some other way. But it's about that issue. There is one person in the United States in particular who's really got, pardon the expression, but has really got a political hard-on for this subject matter. We haven't talked about her on the show before because, well, at least we speak of her the better, really. But her name is Nancy Mace. She is a U.S. representative who has been the U.S. representative for South Carolina's 1st congressional district since 2021. And she's particularly obsessed with what's between people's legs. And given that in the last election, there's someone named Sarah McBride, who is the first openly transgender person elected to the House of Representatives. So the Republicans that ran on anti-woke and don't want to talk about this type of stuff, and this is taking too much time and distracting from the real things. Well, her first order of business was to go to the bathrooms where they work and actually wrote the word biological on a piece of paper and then posted it on above a sign that says women on women's bathroom. So biological women's bathroom.
Person is...
And Trump now has an executive order on the first day to root out the drug. But the cost of living and you don't have a home and whatnot. But this is their first priorities.
Yeah.
And Nancy Mace, in particular, has an issue because, when some people have a beef with something and they just can't let it go, like every time you bump into them, they always talk about it and they always go back to that same subject. And you're like, oh, fuck, not that again. Like, come on, man. According to Newsweek, Republican Representative Nancy Mace has posted and sent out replies over 300 times on social media about bathrooms. Mace of South Carolina has filed a bill seeking to ban transgender women from using women's bathrooms at the U.S. Capitol. That's her first legislative priority. She has posted, reposted, and responded for a total of 326 times as of publication. Mace's posts come ahead of Representative-elect Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender woman elected to Congress, joining House in January. Now that's 326 times in 72 hours.
She's obsessed. That's an unhealthy obsession, if you ask me.
That's I was just going to say, I'm not a licensed therapist, but I'm going to go out on a limb and venture and say that's unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
326 times in 72 hours about bathrooms specifically.
So here's the funny thing, though. Okay. Here's the funny thing. Now, this, because I'm rather pedantic. They call it a bathroom bill, right?
Yes.
So you cannot use a public bathroom.
Yes.
Except here's the thing.
Nobody's been there.
I've never been to a bathroom at a bar, a restaurant, or a public space in my life. I have gone to toilet, but there's no bath in there. So, I mean, literally, if a lawyer wants to get legalese here, you can pick it apart and go bathroom bill. Yeah, no problem. You can go ahead and pass that. And then somebody transgender uses the toilet that they identify with. Yeah, you're just breaking out. No, I'm not breaking the law. This isn't a bathroom. This is a toilet. You called it a bathroom bill. There's no bath in here. It is not a bathroom. It is a public toilet. And I'm thinking people need to go down that route and just literally smack them in the back of the head to show them how stupid they are and how freaking ignorant they are. No, this is a toilet and it's a public one. It is not a bathroom. Well,
now,
you know what I meant? No, I don't care what you meant. Legal is legal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I sent you another clip of her putting that little sign up from her own social media account, and you'll see how proud she is. Well, you'd think she would be proud after doing it, but then it's like you'll see that her heart doesn't seem to be really all into it in the end. But on Mace's other X account, at Nancy Mace, on top of the 326 times she posted from her representative account, she posted another 115 times over the past 3 days on that one.
Is obsessed. Wow.
Ta-da. Like, not even like a ta-da, just like, there, I did it. It's like she's not, she lives to hate.
Mm-hmm.
And as she is being filmed hating, she's still not joyous doing the thing she loves most.
I don't understand these people.
She's still like, there. She's still pissed off. Not like, woohoo, I made this bathroom for biological women. Ain't I great? Woohoo, a new era. It's like, there. They're just, it's like, if Boo Boo Kitty, if you worked that hard to get your, I was gonna comment about bodies. I was gonna comment. Okay. I just the inner vicious bitchy queen in me sometimes. Got to keep her quiet with chocolate now and then. If your whole ambition for the last 4 years has been to get your backside back into that seat for the sole purpose of putting a biological handmade sign on top of something that says women to block one person, a colleague, to create a hostile work environment for one of your colleagues specifically, and then stunt that to the entire nation for clicks and donations and likes. And you can't even be happy that you have found a goose that laid you a golden egg that you're going to be able, and I know we don't milk geese, but that you are going to be able to milk for the next 4 years for doing zero work.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't express any type. What will make you happy, woman?
Haters gonna hate.
Speaking of.
Yeah, I was going there. But before we go
Thank
there,
you.
I want to go here first.
Okay.
Quickly. I want to go back to the military issue. This is a retired military General Mark Milley.
What's your take on women in combat in the military? Yay or nay?
Women have been in combat, and it doesn't matter if that 7.62 hits you in the chest. No one gives a if it's a woman or a guy who pulled that trigger. You're still dead. So if you meet the standards, our military must be and always should be a standards-based, merit-based military, period, full stop. It doesn't matter if you're white, if you're black, if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're a Catholic, if you're a Protestant. None of those identification things matter. What matters are standards, readiness standards. Do you meet the standard or not? If yes, pass go, collect 200, join the infantry.
I mean, he sums it up right there. And of course, you know, you've got a lot of Trump lovers who want to have literally called for this man's execution. I'm not joking. Yep. There are people, because this is the guy who said Trump is a fascist prick. Trump is a dictator. Trump is a wannabe. The guy loves Hitler. He wants his generals to be like Hitler's generals, except Trump doesn't realize that Hitler's generals tried to kill him a couple of times.
Yeah. I don't think he read that book to the end.
No. He only skimmed over it and read the parts he wanted. So yeah. So haters gonna hate, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Except, well, they went all ballistic because the Prime Minister attended the Taylor Swift concert Saturday in Toronto with his daughter Ella Grace. Also, you know who else was there?
Yes.
That was soon-to-be ex-wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau.
Yes.
Yeah,
family night out.
They're parenting. They're still family. Just because they're not together doesn't make them any less family. That's a mother and a father with their daughter at the biggest concert event in history. And of course, that riot that took place in Montreal the same day, people were screaming, "Why wasn't he there doing something?" I'm sorry, what? So the riot that happened before the concert started, it was wrapped up and put to bed by the Montreal police before the concert started. You're mad because he wasn't there to... So let me see. If 3 weeks, the city of Ottawa was held hostage by a bunch of ignorant idiots. The city did nothing. The province did nothing. The federal government had to step in after the premier, 3 weeks in, declared a state of emergency. So the federal government steps in and people scream at him, "He's blah, 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 blah." I'm like, but if you didn't do it in Montreal because it was handled quickly by the police, you're screaming that he should have. Make up your goddamn minds. Hypocrites. Every single freaking one of them. It's right when I do it, you know.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing there. It's like they're sitting there and going, what was he supposed to do? He's in Toronto. He's supposed to leave. He hears about it. People start assembling at around 5 or so.
Mm-hmm.
But as things start to get a little heated, and by 7, the whole thing is completely dismantled and people have gone home. So he hears, let's say things start to get a little out of control, like 5:30-ish, hears about it, commandeers a plane, gets from Toronto to Montreal. Oh, it's over. And if I remember correctly, policing is left to the police, not the prime minister.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
The protest was over before the concert even started.
right. Now here's the thing is that we had, you know who, Captain Short Pants,
Yeah.
going all over the web with that type of thing. And, complaining about the typical way that he does. And I have to say that this was kind of interesting on his part because he got really, really, really excited because in English and in French, if you're looking at his Twitter feed, he posted this twice. So like he posted it in English and then posted it again, both with the exact same timestamp, one on top of the other to make sure it really got out. And then it seems that, and it was just a single tweet, and then it seems that either the people in his office that do his tweets for him or him either needed 19 full minutes to figure out how to translate fewer than 280 characters from English to French, or simply forgot that there were francophones. Oh yeah, we need to do this in French too, especially since it happened in Montreal. But Pierre, while going like the prime minister and all that kind of stuff. So his tweet in English was, "Violent mobs riot and rampage through beautiful Montreal, typifying the chaos that is engulfing our once peaceful country after 9 years of Trudeau's radical divisive agenda. Trudeau fiddles while Montreal burns." So Trudeau was fiddling while Montreal burns, which begs the question, well, what the fuck were you doing during that time? Because I'm noticing that while Trudeau fiddles while Montreal burns, I'm noticing that the timestamp on that tweet is 11:36 p.m.
Yeah, so it's all over and done and gone.
Nearly 5 hours after it's all over done. The one in French is at 11:55 p.m.
Yeah. Well,
Because so at 5-something p.m., we know where the prime minister was. Probably with his daughter and assumed to soon to be ex-wife. Maybe at a tailgate party prior to the concert. Maybe. Or having dinner. But where was Pierre around 5? Let's see. Let's go on to the Conservative Party of Canada website here, and it says that at 3 p.m. I think it is on the day of that concert. November 22nd, 3 p.m. Location: private residence, Toronto, Ontario, M4W1X7. Maximum donation $1,725 an afternoon with Pierre Poilievre in support of the Conservative Party of Canada. Oh, so when people were gathering around 5 or so, he was up somewhere contributing to inflation by charging $1,725 maximum for a plate of food.
Yeah. Maximum allowable legal donation, right?
Yeah, maximum illegal. So an afternoon, hey, it doesn't even say that there will be food. It's not even a dinner. So now I'm not sure whether or not this afternoon went into the evening at this private residence and lasted so long that Pierre only managed to get to his socials at around 11:30 at night to figure out that something had actually happened and take 6 minutes to go, "Oh my God, Trudeau is terrible," and was blissfully unaware that it had even happened. Or let's say it actually was an afternoon event and then it ended at some point in the afternoon. Let's say it was just a 1 or 2 hour event. Where was he between that time? Was he at another fundraiser somewhere else in town at an evening one?
Of course.
That we don't know? But we know where the prime minister was when the alleged riot took place. But we don't know where the leader of the opposition was, unless he was still at that same party. It just went a little long.
Well, speaking of Pierre Poilievre and Stephen Harper, apparently nobody in Canada was alive in 2010 and are not aware grouping in NATO attract window-smashing anarchists when they hold meetings in cities like Toronto and Montreal. Incredible that everyone in this country is a teenager learning things for the first time. Here's a history lesson in photo for those who can't be bothered to research and read. All this lawlessness in Toronto happened under Harper, Poilievre, and crew in protest of the G20. I was in Toronto when this took place. Now, forget about this idiot. Where are the crowds? I only see a dozen vandals. You have history nerd in your bio and you can't bother to look up an event of significant local and national coverage from only 14 years ago. And please remember, this was after Harper had been asked not to hold it in Toronto because knowledgeable people knew this would happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, I sent you something else there, Mr. Grizzly. Now, let's see. This habit of criticize. Well, the thing that we found out later is that the former Ontario Minister of Education, now Minister of Energy or something like that, Stephen Lecce, was also at the event with his daughter, which we're not going to show the picture because his daughter's in the picture, and we leave the kids out of this. It seems so, or a niece or something, but he was there with
I don't think he has children.
Okay, well then with a niece or something, or
Maybe.
But he was there with he was there with somebody that was not 18.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know the relation, but there was a child, so I haven't shared the. That's not going to happen there. But there was no conservative meltdown from him being there. There was only a conservative meltdown from the prime minister being there. And then somebody posted a 4-set photo collage of 4 different photos. And I wish I could remember who it was and where I found it, but I forgot to denote it. And I'm so sorry because I didn't think, I thought it was just cute or interesting, and I put it up and I didn't think it would blow up. But when I did, it did. A lot of people saw it all of a sudden and was like, oh my God, this is really where you got this. And I'm thinking, gee, I wish I remembered because I'd love to give the credit, but I don't. But you will see 4 photos in this collage, Mr. Grizzly, of the current Prime Minister of Canada and the current leader of the opposition doing exactly the same things.
Pierre, need you to believe that it's bad, tyrannical, stupid, cosplay, and virtue signaling frivolous only when the PM does it.
So you got both of them wearing COVID masks.
Mm-hmm.
You got both of them dressed in, Diwali celebration in garb. You've got both of them addressing a pro-Ukraine rally with a Ukraine scarf around their neck. Mm-hmm. And you've got both of them at an APEC-like conference when they're all wearing the sort of, I guess, kimono type.
Tunic,
jacket.
Kimono, I'm not sure exactly. But yes.
I know it's not Japanese culture, so I know they're not kimonos, but all those colorful things that we see every time that they take the photo.
Yeah.
But it's not cosplaying when Pierre does it.
No.
And it's not tyranny when he does it. It's not stupid or silly or seeking attention or.
It's only when the PM does it. Otherwise, it's
And then if you go back to that tweet, Mr. Grizzly, and go right below it.
Just a second.
There is an account on Twitter, if you're still on it, at Jan, Jan, capital A, 55_D. And it's basically the handle is CEO Pierre Poilievre's Bologna Factory. Had this absolutely amazing find from the days that Erin O'Toole was the leader about a GST cut. This one only 1 month long, as opposed to the 2 proposed by the Prime Minister.
So I'm sorry here. Oh yeah, okay. From the Pierre Poilievre's bologna factory. Yes, yeah, yeah. We did talk about this the other day, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show the clip. Just bear with me for a second here. Yeah, we talked about this the other day. It was this was Aaron O'Toole's idea a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
Make ends meet in Canada, and will only get harder as we approach the holiday season. Canada's Conservatives have a plan to help Canadian families and small businesses. We will implement a month-long GST holiday this December. All purchases at retail stores will be tax-free for a month. It's time to give families a break and help small businesses recover. Canada's Conservatives are the only party with a detailed plan to lower prices. Together, we will secure the future.
Yeah, this was a Conservative idea.
But it's only terrible when the Prime Minister does it.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Now, on this topic, we are finding out more information as it comes out. And it seems that, well, this thing might not be all it's cracked up to be, because at first, when it was presented, my impression of it was that, okay, you know, like Doug Ford, it's a lot of money to a lot of people. And, you know, could this maybe not, you know, about $6 billion, this total package of stuff, including the GST cut for a couple of months, but also the $250 check that's going to be coming back. Couldn't that money be spent in a better way? Wouldn't we be able to like spend that $6 billion like on something like either building more housing or, you know, helping provinces create more places in medical school? Not that we can guarantee that they would actually get the money there, however. But isn't there something that we could have done that was a little better than this? Better planned, that we could get more bang for our buck? And then on the other hand, it's sort of like, well, the Conservatives are doing it and it seems to be working for them. So, you know, and people do like to have more money in their pockets, and you can get a lot of mileage. I mean, hey, look, Aaron O'Toole thought he was going to get enough mileage with a 1-month GST cut to actually make it a policy platform. So, I mean, clearly this is what they think of us, right? That this is all that we are going to need. But we're hearing some comments when the Prime Minister and other ministers are being interviewed, and you really get the impression that this really was done on the back of a napkin. Unfortunately, that this was a panic decision here on the part of the federal government. And Mr. Grizzly, I'm sorry, if it sounds like I am stalling, I am, because I was looking for something and I have found it. This is a clip of the Prime Minister answering a question about this, and I'll send it to you right now, Mr. Grizzly. There it is. And hold on to your hats, kids and cubs, because I am going to criticize a liberal.
It does happen, you know.
Mark it down. I understand that of all the pundits and all the people out there and all that kind of stuff, I might be one of the few left in the country who actually still somewhat likes this guy.
Oh, I criticize
and
him.
believes
I think this is a stupid idea, personally.
And believes he deserves another term. But this answer.
Why are you only giving the $250 checks to working Canadians and not others like retirees or people with disabilities?
Over the past number of years, we have been extraordinarily present in helping the most vulnerable Canadians, whether it's by increasing the old age security for older seniors, by 10% to recognize the costs they're facing, whether it's there to invest in increases to the Canada Child Benefit to help families with young kids, significant investments in childcare that's taking a huge pressure off families. But as I travel across the country, I do regularly hear from working Canadians who are having trouble making ends meet, but saying, look, I don't have kids, I'm not a senior yet, and I'm facing challenges. You know, I'm lucky in many aspects of my life, but where are you going to see the work that I've done? And I realized that Canada made it through the pandemic because Canadians rolled up their sleeves and leaned in and were there for each other. We were able to bring down inflation and start to solve the housing crisis because Canadians worked hard to get us through this. So we're not reducing any of the other programs we're delivering to the most vulnerable, but recognizing hardworking Canadians, hardworking middle-class Canadians are making less than $150,000 last year, with a thank you and support for the things that they need to continue to do to keep our economy strong, to build a strong future. It's about seeing Canadians as the hardworking nation builders they are and giving them that support that they need at this time of challenge.
Okay, kids and cubs, I'm going to say it. That's a total bullshit answer.
It was total bullshit.
So it seems that this tax cut that a lot of people first thought was going to 18 million people is a workers' tax cut. Because people who make up to 100, let's say, because it's available to people that make up to 150,000, which at first seemed like it'd be a selling point because, okay, it's somewhat income tested. But if it's a workers' tax cut, it's basically a situation where the Prime Minister and the Liberal Party have determined that someone earning $140,000 a year needs $250 more than a student receiving OSAP, or a senior who also has so little money that they are receiving the guaranteed income supplement, or the disabled Canadians, differently abled Canadians get.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So yeah, because this answer reveals that there were no comms present or considered when developing the strategy or deciding how to communicate it. Why would you, in this particular aspect, when you've got Doug Ford giving a tax cut to everyone with a pulse, would you not give a tax cut to everyone with a pulse, but income test it, but not make it better on whether or not you worked or not? That's literally just stomping all over your message and seeking to attract negative attention to your policy. Now you've got seniors groups going all over going like, this is not fair. And twice in a row now, in that sense, for seniors, because Prime Minister has said no to adding 10% to the OAS from 65 to 74, and now not wanting to give this to seniors. Anybody who's retired prior to 2023, I think, or something like that. The one demographic that the Liberals are leading, and not by much, the Conservatives, is with seniors, and they've just done two moves to tell seniors no to getting more money, without directing that money. Now, if you said no to seniors and saying, like, you know what, the kids need it more right now, I'm going to direct it there, that's one place, one thing. But no, seniors, you're not getting it, and we're just going to distribute to people who already have jobs. Now, there are people who have jobs that are very very not well paid. That money can come in handy.
Oh, yeah. Hey, look, if I get a check, I'll be happy. I'm going to need it. And, you know, we're getting the $200 from Doug in January or whatever it is. So there's $450 plus a GST holiday. Okay, so I'm not going to lie. It's going to help me. I don't have any money coming in right now. You know, I got a book that's out, but it's a royalty share. So unless people buy it, I don't get paid anything for it. And the money that we earn on this show is not enough to keep me afloat. It's as simple as that. So yeah, am I going to take the money? Yeah, I'm going to take the money. I would like to be in a better position where I could just take that money and give it to somebody who needs it. $450, I just go out and hand $100 to people, here you go, here you go, here you go. I can't do that, unfortunately, but if I had my way, that is what I would do. But I am going to take the money because I'm going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Will it do much for me? No, $450 will keep me fed for a couple of days, Well, more than a couple of days, obviously, but it's not, in the grand scheme of things, it's not doing a whole lot to improve my life.
Yeah. So, and same here for me, for me, even less. I mean, the two, again, money is always useful.
Oh, yes.
But if I don't get that $250 check, it is not going to materially change my life in any way. Like this, I would have been perfectly happy had the program been more constrained and that money be directed to someone else. Again, it's like nobody's going to complain about getting money, but I'm a grown-up.
Mm-hmm.
I can look at my world around me and I can look at my bank account saying, you know what? It's like things have gotten tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I told you, when we were at peak interest rates, my mortgage had gone up by more than 50%.
It's a big jump.
But there have been decreases in the decreases in the interest rate alone, because I'm still on a variable rate, have given me some breathing room. This, at the salary that I have, I would have been quite okay with the program being designed and income tested at a salary level that doesn't include me. But for the people that need the most, to get the most.
Good point from Patricia here. If you are not working or collected government assistance, you will not receive these benefits. I've applied
but your
for
cost
DI.
of living went up just the same.
Yeah, I applied for
whether
DI.
you've worked. Yeah, it's not whether you've worked or not that determines whether or not your cost of living has gone up.
Yeah,
and that's why this program is very poorly designed. Now, Mr. Grizzly, I sent you another clip. This was a CTV question period. It was an interview with Minister Marcy Ian. Not going to play it all, but there again, in this interview, you can tell again, very painfully, you can tell that this was last-minute policy because they literally have no arguments for why it is. They really can't tell you why it is that they have designed it this way.
Yeah. Okay, let's watch this.
That's not good.
Today with the Prime Minister's promise to deliver some pocketbook relief to Canadians. His government plans to scrap the GST on some goods for 2 months, starting December 14th and through to February. The list of eligible items includes a slate of grocery items, restaurant meals, beer and wine, kids' clothing, diapers, and even Christmas trees, both real and artificial. The Prime Minister is also promising to send $250 checks to more than 18 million Canadians who earned $150,000 or less in 2023. Those rebates will hit Canadian bank accounts sometime in the early spring. The measures are estimated to cost federal coffers more than $6 billion.
This measure is an affordability measure. It's about making life better and easier for Canadian families.
What we have is a 2-month temporary tax trick.
Marcy Ian is Minister for Women, Gender Equality and Youth. She's in Toronto. Hi, Minister. It's good to see you. Thank you for making time for the show.
Ashley, great to see you. Hope you're doing well.
You as well. I wanted to start off by referencing the fact that your portfolio specifically oversees youth and is aimed at representing youth in this country who are right now, I know you're familiar with this, at record levels of unemployment, and they were in 2023 as well, which is the year that your government is using to calculate these checks that you're sending out. Why would you send money, Minister, to someone who makes $149,000 a year and not to a student who can't find a job?
Yeah.
Thanks so much for asking this question, Vashi, because it gives me a chance to talk about the programs that we have for young people. You're absolutely right. Unemployment is at record levels. And when you factor in the intersections, when you factor in Indigenous, racialized youth with disabilities, 2S LGBT youth, the numbers are even higher, sometimes 3 times as high. So we have something called the Youth Employment Skills Strategy, and under that portfolio is Canada Summer Jobs. So there will be 70,000 young people that will get jobs. That is open right now for employers to take advantage of this summer. It's also mentoring opportunities. And from what I hear, employers tell me that a lot of the times those kids go on to part-time work, they stay on because the experience is excellent. So there is that. There's also what we call Canada Service Corps, and there's a micro grant component, so young people can start up, small business, or if they have a business idea, because young people in our country are amazing. They are so creative, and they're on the cutting edge of so much. So there's that for them as well. And there are also organizations that take advantage of what we offer and for the Youth Employment Skills Strategy under that in the CSC, where they can really hone in on what young people need, what they are looking for, and prepare them for this brand new world. So there are a lot of strategies and programs under the youth portfolio that, frankly, a lot of Canadians don't know about, but a lot of youth are taking advantage of.
But, Minister, I think the point is that even if they're trying to take advantage of it, it's not helping the overall picture, right? Canada Summer Jobs, I've been covering for years, right? It's been in place for a really long time. Despite that, unemployment among youth in this country, and you rightly point out, among Indigenous youth is even higher right now at 20, I believe it's 22%. Can you understand how they would see this announcement from your government and wonder, hey, what message is this sending me? You're sending someone who makes $149,000 a year a check, but you won't send a student who's unemployed or a senior, for example, who's living on, just government assistance.
When it comes to seniors, and I'll deal with that first, the dental care program, I want to say that 50 to 60% of the million people.
She's floundering badly here. I love
Exactly.
Marceline, but this
So
is not good.
Yeah, so I was waiting for when you would notice that there, because basically her answer seems to be is there's no answer to the question, why are you doing it for some and not for others? It's we already have programs for some. So we're not doing it for seniors because we have dental care already. We're not doing it for youth because there's a youth summer program. Now the dental care program at least is something new for seniors that they didn't have before, where they can save some money. There's nothing new for youth. There's nothing new. And remember, during COVID, the youth program that they had put in place fell apart. That was the whole we thing.
Yeah.
Like this. So there's been nothing like this. And as I mentioned, because we lived at it at our place with my Beaver sweetie, those who actually graduated during that time had a way harder time getting their career started off as well. Right? So there was a lot going on there. So she's basically saying that the fact that there are programs that exist elsewhere in the government to serve these groups means that it wasn't required. There's a workers' income tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
You already get a tax credit on your income tax if you're a worker, and you have been for a while. So there are programs throughout the government already for all of these groups. None of this explains why workers and no one else.
Well, and Toronto Dan, what I heard was, I'll answer what I want and not your actual question. And you ain't wrong, bro. I mean, I love Marcine. I do. I've had
I do too, but this is not it.
Thing for her, but this is bad. It's bad. They never answered the question, just diverted and went to, we have all these other programs. Yeah, but you're not answering the question. And Vashi came right out and said, but that's not an answer. Like, why is it somebody who earns $149,000 gets a check, but a student who has no income and is desperate for money gets nothing? And there's no answer coming.
Especially when being a student versus being a worker has no bearing whatsoever
exactly
on how much the cost of living has gone up.
Yeah.
The cost of living has gone up for everyone.
We're all under that umbrella.
In the same amounts. Just more people are better equipped to handle it. And more people had jobs. A certain number of people had jobs that maybe had unions that were better able to negotiate better deals, so that as the years go by, their wages kind of catch up to the inflation that they've experienced. But for everyone else, the 2 points, this is how you know when a communications person is in the room when a policy is being developed.
Mhm.
Because if there were, somebody would have said, yeah, but how are you going to communicate that?
Mhm.
And somebody would have went, ooh, yeah, we're setting ourselves to a... No. So this is something that 2 or 3 people got together and said, you know what, we need to offer something. We need to change the channel. And look, it has worked. It has worked. This bit of news has pierced through, has cut through. I've been listening to pundits and whatnot. They've heard people talking about it at the grocery store and whatnot, that this thing's coming in, so it's broken through. But it's breaking through that it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I don't count because I don't have EI yet. I'm still trying to get it. But when I logged into, like, we need your record of employment, I go, my employer hasn't sent it to me. Oh, okay, Service Canada. Just log into Service Canada and you can get it. So enter your name, your date of birth, your parents' surname at birth, and your access code. Access code? What access? I don't have an access code. Oh, you have to call us. So that's what I'll be doing today after the show ends, is spending hours on the phone with Service Canada. Meanwhile, all the other stuff I have to do today was just going to sit until that gets taken care of, so I can assure that I have, a little bit of money coming in. That, by the way, I paid for. It's EI. It's my money. I just want it back.
Yeah, absolutely. You contribute it to the fund, you get it back.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Maybe ultimately this won't matter, in that the hit of the news is affecting so many households that do work and whatnot, and that'll go over, and but this could have been done so much better.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So much better. And it, like I said, I'm sitting here and I'm going, this does not look like a confident move.
No.
Sorry. Little tidbit before we go, because I think we have a show. Tomorrow will be election day in Nova Scotia, and it seems that the early voting in Nova Scotia is actually down from 2021. Only 129,000 early votes cast versus 140,000 there, which would give me impression that this might be an election like the one we had in Ontario for Doug Ford, where voter turnout is really low and the Conservative just cruises to victory. We'll see tomorrow, but that lower early voter turnout doesn't. That's what happened in the United States, and doesn't look that these days will favor the party that is in second place in the polls at the moment. But hey, we'll wait for the results there on that one. And yesterday, also, I'm hearing over the news, there were a first round of elections in Romania, and there's been a bit of a surprise, because when I was listening before I went to bed, the Trump-like, or the more pro-Russia candidate was in third place and wasn't going to make the runoff, but I guess something happened. And by the time that the first round votes were counted, turns out he's in first place. And that the incumbent leader finished third and will not be part of the runoff. So Romania will be getting a new leader. And one of the two candidates is not pro-Europe, not as pro-Europe. And then in the little nation that's pretty much like connected to Romania, Moldova, which is one of the poorest nations, if not the poorest nation in Europe, and one that Putin would really love to invade. They re-elected their president, Maya Sandu, there for her second and final term, because there are term limits, and she is very much pro-Ukraine. So hopefully in Romania itself, I happen to know a little bit about this because my partner's Romanian. Even though Romania and the USSR back in the day were communist countries, it wasn't the same type of communism, and the Romanians were not particularly fond of the Russians. So there is still to hope that in the runoff that the pro-Russia candidate will not succeed. Now, as in these types of elections, if you get 50% in the first round, then you win. There's no runoff. His first round percentage was in the low 20s. So it's not like, he's got like 40% popular support in the first round. And, and there are enough parties. So there's maybe a good enough chance for other parties to, to coalesce in different ways to make it so that he doesn't win. It wasn't as close as it was in France, let's say, when it was Le Pen and, all these parties had to say, we're not going to run a candidate here in order to block him. But it's still a shock and a surprise because nobody saw this coming. And this guy is not particularly well known at all either. Mm-hmm. So another sort of insurgent, not really known, don't speak like the normal politicians type person that came up and all of a sudden got enough of attention to be one of the top two vote getters in the first round. So fingers crossed that Romania doesn't go that way too.
Well, it's
okay. Now, before we leave, Mr. Grizzly, there's something I heard that caught my attention. One of the problems that I'm having with the world today, particular social media, particular politics, is there's just way too much fucking anger.
Yeah, that's why I'm on Blue Sky. It's not there.
Yeah, but I mean, everybody's just so angry. It's just too much.
Toxic.
And I'm trying to figure out, I'm just like, why are we so angry? And I was listening, oddly enough, and it's a weird connection, but I was actually listening to an Apple Music interview with Kesha.
Okay.
She's been through a lot.
Oh, yes. Yeah, tremendous.
Okay. She lost the right to her own voice, legal right to her own voice that she just got back. And then there was a whole bunch of stuff with her producer involved, with control and sexually inappropriate stuff. And she's gotten through it, and she's, fought the legal battle, and she's writing, different music, and she's in an entirely different place, and it's really good for her. But she's having this conversation with this guy called, I think, oh God, I wish I could remember his name now, from Apple Music. It was an incredibly great interviewer, and it's a full 1 hour interview. So they're going in deep, and they're talking about this stuff, and they're talking about her, right, and going into COVID, and saying she had this album that was going to come out, and it came out just as COVID was hitting. This, and she was ready to do all that stuff that you do with an album and all the distractions, and then couldn't.
Right.
And like many of us, had to face a lot of things during COVID because everything got quiet and still, and we had a lot of time to be with our thoughts. And some people during that time did their work of looking inside and, what do I believe? Why do I believe this? Do I still need to believe this? Does it serve me to believe this? I've been believing this since I was 15, 16. Do I still need to believe this as a 32-year-old, as a 42-year-old, as a 52-year-old? Some people did their work. But I think a lot of people didn't, number one. And number two, a lot of people lost a lot.
Oh, yes.
During that time. Loss brings about sadness. Unresolved sadness becomes anger.
Usually, yeah.
We went through 3-something years of COVID, I guess, and most of our premiers basically turned around and said, COVID's over, let's move on. Let's get the economy back on track as fast as possible. We're rejoining regular life like it never happened. Yeah, it's still out there, but we won't talk about it. We won't test. We won't give you data like this. We'll just pretend it is gone. We just keep on. But we never actually stopped and had the conversation as a nation about what we lost. We never had a collective moment to grieve what it is that we've lost. We went from sheltering at home to anti-vax demonstrations and tyranny and all that kind of stuff, and we completely bypassed the I'm hurting and I would need to talk about that. I missed out on all these milestones. I had a parent die and I couldn't see them.
Right.
I didn't get to graduate with my class I didn't get to go to prom. We had our 50th anniversary and our family wasn't there.
Yeah.
There's I lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated and I didn't get to go to the job fair. And now I can't figure out what to do with my life. There's a lot of loss. A lot of loss. And there's been no avenue whatsoever for all of us to come together and process that. We just skipped right over it and said, you deal with that like this. We got an economy to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Life as usual.
Capitalism.
And I think that might be our problem. We're running into a brick wall really hard right now.
Capitalism doesn't care about you. The shareholder
I don't know.
is the ultimate.
Yeah. I don't know how we do that. How we develop some type of thing, forum, mechanism, venue for everybody to come and sort of dump all of that into a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with it, talk about it, put it all, dump it all in the hole, and then we forget it. But you got to process it somehow. A lot of us are carrying, a lot of us have some baggage and it's not fitting in a carry-on at the moment. And that's my best explanation, is to explain why is everybody just so damn fucking angry the entire time. You haven't dealt with the loss from that period. It was a god-awful period.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to face what happened there. Don't just throw some dirt over it and then move on and think that nothing will grow there, because something will grow there. And it probably won't serve you. It was just like an epiphany I had. It was maybe that's it. I need to understand stuff, right? I do not believe that humans do things for no reason. Even if they don't know what the reason is, they're not conscious of it. But I don't believe that people do things without reason.
Mm.
So this is about the only reason I can figure out. It's because I would love to give the entire world one big chill pill, man.
They wouldn't take it.
Anyway, Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us, because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, and you have the mouth from which we want the words to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. We appreciate it when you do. Now, if you would like to help us out, for example, by not missing an episode, you don't have to, thanks to the Ray Girl. That QR code that just appeared brings you to our pod page, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver. Lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you click subscribe there, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Now, if you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like our Kit Elaine and surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media page on our YouTube channel, where we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. If you click them, we get ourselves a lot of happy, and we are very happy that you join us. And plus, we have some additional content on there if you become a member, and plus you get to benefit from the chat with all the kits that are out there, and it's a pretty supportive chat with some really great people there. So if you'd like to participate in the fun, then please join us there. Now, if you'd like to support us in other ways, we have a tip jar, because you might like our product and you would like to help us grow and help us underwrite the costs of bringing the show to you. So if that is the case, because you appreciate what we do, then the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase words, lowercase letters, all in lowercase words. I guess it does apply. Lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you go there, you find our tip jar, and we would very much be happy if you could leave us a little bit there, as did Kit Cassie the other day, for which we will thank you very much. Left us a little donation. I wish I could read the little thing that you sent us as an encouragement, but for some reason I'm there it is. Excellent. Thanks, lads, for making cool Manitoba mornings a little warmer and brighter. I'm taking a break for a bit to soak up the joy that the Christmas season brings to me and my family. Politics gets a little draining. Cheers. Yes, it does.
Yeah, we know.
Yes, it does, Cassie. So thank you for the generous support. And if you would like to match Kit Cassie and send us a little bit of support, like we mentioned, that QR code will bring you right to our tip jar. And we appreciate everything that you can donate. Now, if you can't donate anything, please don't worry, because the gift of your participation and the gift of your attention are the ones that matter the most to us. And we love to hear from you. So please write to us. TrueNorthEagerBeaver@gmail.com is our email address. And you can reach us at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge and on the Jitter at True Eager. And you can reach us also on our Facebook page, the blog page, our original site on Facebook, True North Eager Beaver. And as well, if you're watching on YouTube, if you leave some comments just down below, we appreciate it very much. We do read everything, and we thank you for your input. It does help to make the show better. Because democracy is something that you do. Provincial by-elections in Alberta, Lethbridge West coming up. Federal by-election in Cloverdale, Langley City in British Columbia coming up. And tomorrow is voting day in Nova Scotia if you're voting in person in the provincial election. So please do make sure that you make a plan to cast your vote. It'll be very important. I am not yet sure whether or not I will be doing a return show on the day. Doesn't look like it unless it's really early. Unfortunately, my curling match on Tuesday is at 9:20 p.m. Now I know that it's 1 hour earlier and the polls close a little earlier. So I might be able to do something for an hour before I go, but it will be a full return show. Unfortunately, like I've been able to do for the other 4 recent elections, because I will be nowhere near a computer when they're coming in. But that's but we will bring you full results, of course, the following day on Wednesday on our show. All right, kids and cups, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom, please.
Yeah, to our friends in Nova Scotia, get out and vote, please. That's all I can say is please just go out and vote. It's important that you do. It's really important that you do.
It is indeed. And Kits and Cubs, I have some also other good news. I have had a chance to test out the new computer. I've been able to plug everything in. It does work. Unfortunately, because I work with 2 monitors, I need to go buy 2 HDMI cords. So that will be happening today. And then hopefully my Beaver Sweetie will be back home, because not only do I have a new computer, but given the setup and everything, I made sure that I got a new desk for it, because this one is not going to cut it. And of course, with camera angles, you see back here, but over here in the spare bedroom, sort of guest room, it's more of a storage unit, given that we are in renovations. So there's not actually room to build the new desk in this room. And then so I actually have to dismantle everything, take the desk out, and then build the desk in, because there's a whole wood frame bed that's in pieces on this side, which we can't set up until we close the hole in the floor in the other room, which is still going to take a while. So, but I promise, Kids and Cups, I will have hopefully the new computer set up for tomorrow's show. So there we go. Mr. Grizzly, I think it's time to cue the cock.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
I have have to share this with you. This is
Okay.
from Reuters. It just came across my feed. It was sent to me by, somebody sent it to me. I'm sorry. I got so many tabs open here right now, but this isn't good.
Oh.
Top NATO official calls on business leaders to prepare for wartime scenario. Top NATO military official on Monday urged businesses to prepare for a wartime scenario and adjust their production and distribution lines accordingly in order to be less vulnerable to blackmail from countries such as Russia and China. If we can make sure that all crucial services and goods can be delivered no matter what, then that is a key part of our deterrence, the chair of NATO's military committee, Dutch Admiral Rob Bauer, said in Brussels. Speaking at an event of the European Policy Center think tank, he described deterrence as going far beyond military capability alone, since all available instruments could and would be used in war. We're seeing that with the growing number of sabotage acts. Europe has seen that with energy supply. We thought we had a deal with Gazprom, but we actually had a deal with Mr. Putin. And the same goes for Chinese-owned infrastructure and goods. We actually have a deal with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Bauer noted that Western dependencies on supplies from China, with 60% of all rare earth materials produced and 90% processed there. He said chemical ingredients for sedatives, antibiotics, and anti-inflammatories and low blood pressure medicines were also coming from China. We are naive if we think the Communist Party will never use that power. Business leaders in Europe and America need to realize that the commercial decisions they have make strategic consequences for the security of their nation. So yeah, that's not good news.
I have one tiny little thing, and it's a big shout out with some encouragement and some good vibes going out to Kit Tim, who has an important job interview in Ottawa this week for a part-time GIS professor, either professor or professional job. So you go, all the good vibes there. Bring all the damn fam energy with you into that room and go get your job. There you go.
That clip was sent to me, or that news segment was sent to me by Kristen. So thank you, Kristen. I appreciate that. She sends me lots of stuff. I can't get to all of it, but when I can, I put it in.
Yep.
So yeah.
Ever since Kristen has found us, our jobs have become a lot more easily. The news comes to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. All right.
All right.
I gotta go. See you later.